My name is Carrie Cariello. I live in New Hampshire with my husband, Joe, and we have 5 kids. And our second son, Jack, is diagnosed with
My
autism.
name's Lizzie. I'm from Maine and I am a disabled college student.
I'm Deanna Barry. I'm the area coordinator for East and West in the Office of Residence Life at the University of New England.
So my name is Paul Grin, and I'm a teacher here at Ellington High School in Ellington, Connecticut. And I teach special education, language arts support.
Hello, my name is Megan Smith. I am a student at a university. I live in Maine and I'm getting an undergraduate degree currently. And I'm someone that had an experience where accommodations were necessary. And it's not something that I've dealt with my whole life. I had an accident and suffered a severe injury.
So my name is Christine Beitler. I live in Concord, New Hampshire, and I teach in Manchester, New Hampshire, which is the biggest city in New Hampshire. I am a teacher of the visually impaired. I travel the schools and I work with preschool up to 12th grade.
He worked closely with his academic team, and they went with him to the academic space where he had to request that. Basically, he has access to professors' notes ahead of time. Should there be something that comes up, he has longer time for the testing. He also indicated that he needs to move a lot during class, so he's able to get up and kind of like regulate his body as he needs to. I think he really needs the academic support team to be successful, in his residence space. I don't think he could just go to college with just these supports, just these accommodations, and necessarily be successful. The cost of launching a neurodiverse child is like an unexplored topic. I knew he just wanted the experience of living on his own.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, not just at UNE, but across the country in colleges and universities, is students just really struggling with their mental health at a level that we're not used to. I think in general, in my experience, at least here with upperclassmen, that we've been able to meet the needs of our students.
The injury I sustained was to my facial bones that hold my eye in place. So I was in quite a bit of pain at first, and then also had to get surgery a couple weeks later. For I need like more time on assignments, as well as printouts or printable versions of PowerPoint slides. Often looking at bright screens was a bit challenging, and kind of just like looking up and down in general. And there was a period of time where I also kind of just needed a request for excused absences, basically.
Had somebody come back about a month and a half ago, and she had been my student 11 years ago. And unfortunately, when she went to get her accommodations at college that she started to attend, they wouldn't give it to her because they needed proof, right? They need testing data, and they need a little bit more than that, like an IEP. But by that time, the IEP that we would normally have housed here at the school was destroyed because we don't keep that documentation past 7 years.
When I first got to college, I didn't know the correct paperwork that I had to have. So it took me a whole year to get accommodations that I could have had at the beginning of my freshman year.
So I did need specific documents from my doctor, which I wasn't aware of at first, and that made the process pretty difficult, especially since I was in pain at the time and couldn't necessarily focus my mental resources on stuff like that. So I was able to get some of them, but it was not easy. And then I found that to extend any of them was very difficult. And I actually ended up kind of not pursuing that because it's my senior year. And again, it was just kind of a really difficult and not straightforward process.
Sometimes professors don't always provide them.
Me as a mom to think, well, do the professors know what he has? Do they know of his diagnosis? So there's no like a formal sharing of that. I think that could be helpful. There are not many programs for kids like my son. And it was quite a like journey to find this one. And so there's not many. And then when there are some, they'll say, well, we have 4 spots open for the upcoming year. And then they say, and it's $80,000.
Where we struggle is if a student is like temporarily disabled, like using a mobility device like crutches, or I don't know what you call the things that you like wheel your leg on when your like leg is broken, or something like that, just for a short period of time if they've been injured or had surgery. Like we have the ability to have a space for students to move into, but it's usually not in their dorm. So having to relocate them somewhere else is not super accessible when they're already having a hard time moving. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen.
Sometimes professors think it's too hard to implement a accommodation, or they won't turn on closed captions on videos because they don't know how, or they can't figure it out. We have to send an email to our people who make our accommodations, and that can get lost, and it takes forever to get in touch with them sometimes. So
Because I think it's really scary for students with disabilities to go off out into the real world and to continue their education. But if there was more support out there for them, I think that they'd feel a little bit more comfortable. Actually, a lot of students with vision impairments, they end up going to Keene State because they are very well known for having a big support system for students with vision disabilities.
I like the point that people will have an opportunity to learn about disabilities. Especially, we call autism a hidden disability. He doesn't have a wheelchair, he doesn't have a seeing eye dog, he doesn't take insulin. It's not visible at first.
having like a streamlined way to get accommodations, because I know at every single university they have a different way and like a different like process of getting accommodations. It's not the same at all at like any university. And also having like more information on how to get accommodations, because it's not something that really.
So I think this act would kind of just put some type of legislation in place that makes it easier for students to know what they need to access accommodations, as well as hopefully speed up the process, and maybe offer more direct support in that area, because chances are if you need accommodations, you already are needing support in some way, and so getting access to that kind of thing, hopefully it would make this process more streamlined.
People learn differently. It's time for secondary education to acknowledge that. I could have used a few things when I was a college student.
Again, more support for getting accommodations, because you could be disabled at any point in your life. You don't know when you're going to become disabled.